There was no rain. Can you believe it? Aurobindo had his ashram and he was in his room facing the ocean. It is said that even in the stormiest weather, his window used to be open and no rain would come in. Now you have these beautiful things in the malls in Europe and in the US, A straight curtain of air, hot air, which keeps the outside air from coming inside. This everybody believes because it is there. I see it, I perceive the heat. I hear the blow, it ruffles my hair. Therefore it is real. So for human beings, reality is what is perceivable by their five senses. But for the sage who doesn't trust his five senses and yet sees there's no wind blowing into Aurobindo's room or rain coming in, he perceives the unperceivable. He knows it is there, though he cannot see it, by the effect. So in the Indian philosophy, we assess things by the effect rather than by the cause. Western philosophy depends on cause and effect. Cause is first, effect is second. We have the cause, but we don't need the effect. Because when no effect is visible, perceivable, accountable, there can be one effect, only one cause, and that is the original cause. So we deduce this original cause from no cause in this knowledge that there has to be a cause. No, I don't see it. See? And that cause can only be. You see how easy it is, how easily it is explained. So the Westerners, Western philosophy, Western science needs not only the five senses, but an acceptable cause. We have a cause which is acceptable. They want an acceptable cause. Invertendo. I gave you one example the other day. This is the second example of invertendo. I have an acceptable cause. They want a cause which is acceptable. Acceptable by the intellect because of the sensory confirmation that that has or that gives. So what more to say of Sahaj Marg? And this is the tradition you have inherited in the fourth generation.
Master, I have two questions. The first one is, this is Janaki Farms and we have not really heard about your mother that much. What memories you have of her, if any, and how it influenced your life.
Well, it's a funny thing, but I was about 5 or a little more when my mother died. I have no memory of her at all. Except what I have written in Down Memory Lane. It is as if even at that age, I pushed back all memory, out of a feeling of self-protection, because those memories were too hard to handle, perhaps. I have absolutely no memory of her.
But you have had some contact with her through whispers, though.
Yes, that's it. But that is in my 79th year. So in between, zero. Only, the affection that one feels, having seen or not seen, it doesn't matter.
So the second question I have is one related to, you said earlier that when you come, you have to choose between the Father. When you come to the Father, for most of us aspirants, when is enough in the material world, Master?
I always tell people to read that story, Leo Tolstoy's How Much Land Does a Man Require? If we always remember that where we are going, we need nothing. We would try to do with the minimum here. Because however much you may amass, whether wealth or intelligence or whatever knowledge, everything is going to remain here. And what is it that we are hoarding all this for, amassing and hoarding? I told you the other day that Babuji said, even your body you are going to leave. You are a tenant in this body. No? That's why we preserve it, we protect it, we enhance it in so many ways, strengthening, beautification, cleanliness, so on and so forth. None of which should really matter. No? Because what goes up is nothing of these. Then what am I going on amassing crores and hundreds of crores and thousands of crores? A Rockefeller there, no, a Ford. It's all right to invent, because that is a question of the genius of the mind. It's all right to grow things, own farms, you see, but not to amass, go on adding, you know. Then it becomes like that fellow in Tolstoy's novel. The man runs round and round more and more and falls dead by the time he comes back to the hat at sunset. He has really owned nothing. So that is to teach us that however much you may really own, you own nothing, because when you leave, that's it. Those 1,000 acres, 5,000 acres are no more yours, which means they never were, because they depended on your being here to be yours. So we must have this wisdom to think, it is mine only when I am here. So how does it matter whether it's mine or not? That's why Babuji said it's better to have rich friends than be rich yourself. You know, I can come anywhere I like, whether it is your palace or his bungalow. And I am like you because I am your friend. I enjoy your food, I enjoy your bed, I enjoy your bathroom. Nothing is mine. So Babuji said, live in your own house as a guest, which only means don't think this is mine. Follow. So that is the best way of conducting life. Live as if you own nothing. Wisdom, live as if you are going to die the next moment. Service, do as much as you can while you are yet here. For others, not for yourself. No? Three principles which make life not only clear, easy and happy, but also a life of service to others. So as for my mother, you know, one does not worry about what remembering or not. There have been children who were born and the mother died after giving birth. They never saw her. But yet that love for the mother is strong, stronger than love for anything living. So it is almost, I should say, part of human nature, in the sense that nature designed it to be so, that one never forgets a mother, whether one has seen her or not, lived with her or not, it doesn't matter. Whereas for every other relationship, you need knowledge, you need experience, and you need continuation of that experience as much as possible in our lives, so that those memories are strengthened. Now you find, you know, a boy of 18 moves away to America. In a few years, he doesn't know his cousins, he doesn't know his, father and mother knows. If he lives 20 years and doesn't come back to India, when he comes after 20 years, he can't recognize his father, he can't recognize his mother, though the mother will recognize. That is what happens in the Mahabharata, you know, when the children come back, when they say, let us see if our mothers will recognize us. Which mother will not recognize her child? Whereas in the animal kingdom, when the kids are born, you know, in the Wild West, in the old days, buffaloes, they used to roam America in the millions. And the calf were born on the run. And if that calf could stand on its own feet, in 2 minutes it was dead. And within those 2 minutes, it had to stand up and be able to run with its mother and feed on the run. And that was the bonding, you know. And that calf could recognize its mother from 10,000 buffaloes, she buffaloes. There the inverted noise, the child has to remember, you see, for its own safety, for its own continuity in life. Here the child doesn't know. You wean it away from the mother and put it with a, what they call, what do they call what? Huh? Ah. And they think that's the mother. So human nature is different. But yet that initial contact is what the psychologists call bonding. See. And recently they have found that it has nothing to do with this sense of smell or food or anything. It's the heartbeat. See. The child held close to the mother's heart, dum 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 dum, which almost seems to mean that it is the sign of its parentage. You put your, and this is my mother. And perhaps in some way our own heartbeat reflects that of the mother, and so through that we know the mother more than through the physical relationship. I don't know this, whether this is clinically true or psychologically true, but what is psychology except intuitively gathered knowledge? I mean, you have dreams and you prepare to analyze them and you see some dreams recurring again and again, and you say, well, this is the reason. Or like those dreams of Joseph, 7 lean years and 7 fat years. That was wisdom speaking, you see. That a dream represents some aspect of reality. So a reading is always something interpreted through the medium of your reasoning abilities, which means you must have the wisdom to reason correctly and associate cause and effect properly.
Master, in the spiritual arena, an aspirant can really never be away from the guru, even though they may go off the path a little bit. Is that correct?
Well, we are never away from the master, taking God as the master. Wherever we are, he is with us whether we want him or not. That's one problem for most people who want to follow a wrong path. There's a famous short poem, The Hound of God. This is a fellow woodcutter who goes into the forest every day and he wants to be with God. That is his yearning. And one day he hears footsteps behind him. Being alone in the jungle, he is afraid. He walks faster and the steps follow faster. He runs and the steps run after him. And finally he collapses because of fatigue and falls. And then he sees the divine presence. He says, my son, you have been running away all your life from me. He says, but I was now running towards you. God says, you are running in the wrong direction. I was always there, yet you are always going away from me, thinking you are looking for me. Where was the need to look? And as Babuji said, if you had just turned around, you would have found me. And he says, God, why did you not tell me? He said, when I just followed you, you got afraid. If you could have heard me, what would you have done? No. So it is until you are elevated to a position where you can perceive God and not be afraid. Because again and again in the Bible you find a reference to something and they hide their faces, you see, whether it's shame or guilt or fear. When you hide your face, it's either for shame or for guilt or because of fear. There's no fourth reason. So ipso facto, if anybody is there and he doesn't want to see you and he sees you coming and moves away, then one of these 3 factors in him, surely. No, sir, I just turned away because I didn't want to bother you. Lie. See? I mean, you don't need to be a spiritual giant. I can tell you what everybody thinks just by looking at them. This morning, I told Sujata. She was astonished. There's nothing to it. It just comes out, So they speak of saints telling only the truth. They don't tell the truth or the lie or anything. They open their mouths and the truth comes out. Like you open the tap and water comes out. It's as simple as that. That's why Babuji said, our priests and our teachers have complicated the whole thing about God. They have written volumes about it, but one word would have been enough. Exists. What exists? No answer. Why? Because everything that exists is He. Is this true God? Yes. Is that also? Yes. And this mud, yes, of course. If that was not God, you wouldn't be able to stand on it. So, existence. Does He know I'm here? Of course He does. Do these trees know? Of course. If they come, see you coming with the intent to cut down, they react. So, without God in them, how would they know? So, existence, consciousness. And yet bliss, because everything is happy except the human being. Why is he unhappy? Because he has desires. What are these desires? However much they are fulfilled, there is still a great deal unfulfilled. It is like a pot which you go on filling and which is never full. So there is no bliss in human life. There is existence, there is consciousness, no bliss. Therefore, we are always straying towards bliss. Where they are with God eternally, we have to be with God now consciously, knowingly, and with effort. That is where yoga comes in to link us back to divinity, you see. For having strayed from the divine realm, lost that bliss of being together, is like a child which wanders in the fair and is weeping inconsolably because it has lost its mother. The mother is there, the child is there. She is weeping, he is weeping. See? So existence, consciousness, Sat, Chit, Ananda we don't have. So the Vedas, the Upanishads go up to Anandam Brahmeti Vyajanat. No Anandam to be Brahman. Babuji said, yes, but what beyond? There must be something beyond bliss. Because everything is eternal, everything is infinite. We cannot stop at a particular stage and say, now you have reached the end. See, evolution, whether divine or material, has no end. You cannot say, I have produced the best the camera. Next stage you will produce something better. You may be able to produce a camera without a lens. You may make yourself the camera and you look and blink and it's taken. You know, because you are touching a circuit which records. The human being becomes a camera. Who knows? It is not impossible. So you see, whether it is science or philosophy, there is no end to anything. And there was never really any beginning to anything either. What was man before? Darwin says he must have been a monkey. We don't like it. Before that, well, he was a vertebrate. Before that, he was an amphibian. Before that, he was in the sea. Before that, he was the mollusk. Before that, he was the ooze, primeval ooze. And before that, we don't know. God is like that. Anadi, Anantam. No beginning, no end. See? What was God before? Suppose your son asks you, well, my son, God could not have been anything else because he was always God. Come on, Dad, everybody has to be something before, to be something now. This was a seed, now it is a tree. And then you say, okay, says, what was the seed before? Well, Daddy, it was the fruit in the tree. And before that, when there was no fruit, but Dad, it has to be there because it grew from, it could not have come from nowhere. That nowhere is divine. See? So from nothing it comes into being and goes back into nothingness. That is again the idea of life, of the evolving life. And quantum science says they seem to come into existence and disappear. Here science and spirituality think alike, but yet this is science and this is spirituality. For the scientist.
For argument's sake.
For us it's all the same. How do you know? They say, well, we see it on the, the trails on the camera plates, these particles leave behind. How are they made? Oh, in the cyclotrons, collision of particles. How do you know they collide? Well, there's the evidence on the camera plate. How do you know this is right?